for liking this workshop and enjoying your time here.
Yes.
That is very important. Now, as far as today's topic that I am going to talk to you is concerned, clinics you have heard of, right? I assume all of you are law professors, right? Different faculty members?
Yes.
From different fields?
Economics,
Culture,
health,
health, management,
information science,
information
library
science.
information science.
Right. Okay, that's very nice. So, the term for us is experiential learning. So, I hope everyone is familiar with it. It's experiential learning. Now, in a law school setting, that experiential learning happens mostly through clinics. Mostly through clinics. That is, as Professor Rupesh was saying, every law school has to have a legal aid clinic for that law school to function. No law school in India is allowed to function without a legal aid clinic. So that is the scenario, that is what he was mentioning. But a broader term is experiential learning. What clinical legal education or legal aid clinic is, it is all about experiential learning. Learning that happens through experiences. Learning that happens through practical work. Real practical work. So it could be any stream, it could be agriculture, health, library science, anything. Learning through practical work is experiential learning, and that is exactly what we are looking at. Now it is a great opportunity that we are working together with people from different fields, not just law, and that is something that is really required. One may call it interdisciplinary, one may call it multidisciplinarity, or whatever is the term that we want to use. But it is all a whole of society approach. Some researchers may have come across this term, the whole of society approach. We have larger problems, and those larger problems need whole of society response. Whole of society response is response coming from different walks of life, from different streams. Everyone looking at those problems and working for their solutions. What could be the solutions? Okay, so let me ask this big question. According to you, what is the biggest problem that the humanity faces today? Yes? You can share your thoughts.
Selfishness.
Selfishness, yes. So lack of clarity. Lack of clarity, a lot of confusion.
Lack of awareness.
Lack of awareness.
Information,
Overload.
information.
Too much information. That is called quantitative glut. A lot of quantity and very little quality. So what we don't have is quality. What we don't have is values. As someone said, what did you say? What was
Lack of clarity.
lack of clarity? And someone else said something else. Selfishness. Right. So which means what? This means that we lack values. So there is a bombardment of all kinds of information, which is quantitative glut, very little quality, and quality comes with values. The largest value, the biggest umbrella of values is truth. And within that larger umbrella of values, we have all other different values. So truth would also require compassion, truth will require honesty, truth will require dedication, selflessness. Truth will require to be grounded.
Rapidly declining ethical spirits.
Ethical. So, falling way behind in terms of ethics. That is something we as people associated with education must always be worried about, because otherwise, what is the purpose of education? Purpose of education is light and liberation. Very simple, simple terms. From darkness to light. That is what education does. But we have darkness-ridden corners everywhere. We have poverty-stricken corners everywhere. So we see all of these problems, and then we find our role. What is that role that we can have for ourselves to meaningfully respond to some of these challenges? You have very nicely pointed out those problems. And all of those things become bigger, and the bigger picture becomes something like climate change. It's a bigger problem. Something like huge inequalities. Huge inequalities. These are the two mega problems that we are facing in our world today. One is climate crisis, and the other is inequality. And all of these problems have something to do with ethics, something to do with values. Now, what is the role of education and educational institutions and people pursuing education? So let us come back to this. This is important. Otherwise, we will keep on discussing these issues and concerns, and then my time will get over. Right? So let us come back to this, and the idea is what we do in terms of law. Law has huge promises. So not everyone has to be a legal person to consider law, because we all are right there. See the Constitution of India, the preamble. We all are a part of it, whether we know of it or we don't know of it, whether we realize it or we don't realize it, whether we want it or we don't want it, but we all are a part of this. We the people. You see, we the people of India. So we the people of India, we are there. So we have to relate to something, and this something is the preamble to the Constitution of India. We the people of India. So we the people of India have done what? We the people of India came together and fought for our independence. We became independent, and then we promised to each other a life of dignity. That's what the preamble says. So it is not a guarantee of the Constitution. It is a guarantee of all of us to all of us. First, and then it got written in the Constitution. So it is whose problem it is? It is our problem. It is not the Constitution's problem. We got this written in the Constitution. From where did it come? It came from us. Right? We the people of India. So a life of dignity is a promise that I made to you and you made to me. Now if anything happens which breaches anyone's dignity, that is a breach of promise that we all made. So it's a breach of my promise, and therefore I need to worry. I need to worry. The Supreme Court or High Courts or other authorities and institutions we created, they would worry as much as we would worry. Otherwise, they are also not going to worry. If the very people who made these promises are not worried about these promises, these institutions are also not going to worry. Actually, it is a reflection. You see, institutions have also become unethical. So don't think that it is a problem of ethics only in society. It's a problem of ethics everywhere. Institutions have also become unethical. There are lies, there are deep fakes. You have heard this term, deep fakes, right? So you see where we are actually. And then as an educationist, we have to find a role. What is our role? So it's great that we first identify the disconnect. The disconnect between what is written in our educational books or instruments or whatever and their reality on the ground. There's a complete disconnect. There's a promise of life of dignity. Every educational pursuit would care about the promise to people of a life of dignity. No one can claim, even liability science can't claim that we have nothing to do with people's dignity. Of course. Health, yes, of course. Education, yes, of course. Political science, yes, of course. And law, of course, very directly. Law cannot survive without working for people. It just can't. Because law is all about people. The very coming together of people has some basis in law. I came from Delhi. You guys are from this region. We came together. We don't know each other, but we are working together. Why? Of course, we are human beings and all of that is a good thing. But of course, there is also promise of law. Two people meet, befriend each other, and then they marry. They don't think of law. They think of a relationship. Right? But if something goes wrong, then? So if something goes wrong here, what will happen? Law. If you guys start beating me, right? It will be law. Right? So law has to do its job well. Because if it doesn't,
somebody said, like a road, brother-in-law, father-in-law, sister-in-law, but there is no wife in law.
yeah.
Or no husband-in-law.
Right. So as educationists, we have to find our role. What is it that we want our students to be? That's the question. And how experiential learning can help. So, amidst all of these challenges and issues and problems, we look at the person that we are preparing, and that person we are preparing will be responding to these challenges and will be a citizen who is well prepared to do what they are supposed to do with all the values and ethics and all of those things.
Sir, please, if I may understand in this way, as long as ethical practices are there, law will always be there. Law will be there forever. Because from a practical point, when before the child is born, some right is given to a special treatment to nursing care so that the child is born good before the child has been born. Throughout the phase of his life, sorry, everywhere the father or the parent, they give some special remuneration or something to grow in his life. Even after death, before the burial or the cremation, still the bride is given to give the parent. So if the unethical practices are there before we are born and even after we are gone, so law will also remain forever. Like I understand.
We want law. Law is all about all the good things in life. Law is about all the values that we are thinking of. Life of dignity. That's the most fundamental provision of law in India. Very simple. The most, I'm not saying a fundamental, the most, the single one, the most fundamental provision of law in India is the guarantee of a dignified life to everyone. That's the most. And everyone should worry about it because it is not just about law, it's about all of this. Right? So, you are right about bribes and all. Right? So, what is it that we want to do about those situations as educationists? That's my question. What is it that we want to do?
Preventive action for corrections or correcting them in the right path.
We want no acceptance. We don't accept those practices. Although we may be a part of those practices, but we don't accept those practices. Is that right? Do we accept? In the heart of our hearts, do we really accept those practices? We don't, because these practices make all of us insecure. Because we never know. There is one position and there is someone who is trying to bribe, will always be insecure because we never know that there is someone else be coming with more bribe. Then what will happen? So, there are no ethics, no values, only insecurity. You have something to say, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. My question is like, for the last 15 minutes, you are using the word dignified education.
Dignified life.
So is it like, why like instead of using right to life, you are shifting right to dignity, life and dignity, constitution, it refers to Article 21.
Ji.
So are you like intentionally using dignity or right to life and dignity or like?
No. The right to life, right to live with dignity.
Yes.
That is why I am saying it, because this is the correct provision. Correct provision is, it's not just any right to life. The correct provision is the right to a dignified life. That's why I am saying it, because this is what the correct provision is, the right provision.
I was getting this sense that like it is almost 70 years has crossed.
Yes.
So right to education is more related to right to life. Or maybe now you want something very better education. So I thought we are using dignified.
Why it is a part of right to life? Because the right to life means the right to live with human dignity, and education is a part of human dignity. And therefore it is Article 21A. Otherwise, education, right to education would have found place somewhere else. Because there is a concept of dignity, and therefore, education is a part of dignified life. And therefore, we have 21K. Right? Otherwise, it may have been somewhere in the Directive Principles of State Policy provision 45. Is this 45 or something? 45 DPSP. They would have made some other amendment because provision for education for children has always been a part of DPSP. Is that clear now? Okay. So what is it that we can do? We have certain expectations and we are looking for our goal. And experiential learning becomes even more important in today's time. Why? Especially why? Because as a teacher, we cannot provide the information to students which they can get from so many different other sources. Right? We don't have that capability. The next generation is very smart. So they will find, they'll use AI, they will use all kinds of things, and they will be better prepared for a lecture than a teacher can be prepared. That is true actually. Our generation is different, next generation is different, the next coming after them will be different. Certainly. So there are limitations. The information that we have has limitation. So what we need to do actually is to necessarily delve in the area of values and ethics. What is it that you can do with that information? There teachers can find their role. You have all the information. So I am not here to share that information. I am coming with a lot of knowledge, wisdom and all of that. No, they are smarter. They have all of that, provision, all those, and they are faster also. We are not that fast actually in terms of accessing information. They are very fast. My students are so fast and quick. They will very quickly produce a document. I take months to write an article. They'll immediately write with all correct citations and everything, right? Because they have better tools than a teacher. In terms of information, just information. But teacher's role is in actually showing the way as to what they can do with that information in the right way. And that becomes empowerment. Information alone is not empowerment. It gives some sense of empowerment. You have the information, so you know things. But until you have done something positive from that information, the cycle of empowerment doesn't get complete. So for that cycle to be completed, some positive outcome has to be there and something must be done with that information. So I am sharing a case study with you, a very simple case study and a very classical one. And the purpose is to just show to you that this could be a way of engaging students in learning as well as contributing to society. Experiential learning exactly does at least these two major things. One, learning by doing. And as they learn by doing, they also contribute to society. And as they contribute to society, they learn. This is what the main purpose of experiential learning. Learning by doing, and as they do, they contribute to society. So real work is important. For experiential learning, real work is important for impact. Actually, as teachers also we may be finding to be in that state of being stuck. Stuck in the sense that's okay, I go to the university or to my college, I teach, and then I come back, and I again go to the college, I teach, and I come back. Same story, same routine. Then I worry for my promotions, I worry for my pension, I worry for my emoluments, and okay. Same. So, what is the impact of my being in education? Is there any impact that I am able to create? I think as teachers we need to ask this question. I also had that feeling after teaching. I didn't want to be a teacher actually, I tell you. Because I don't find myself to be qualified enough to be a teacher. Because I always felt that teachers are highly qualified people, very disciplined, dedicated to education, all of that. Because I was taught with some of the best teachers in the world. So I always looked at them and I thought that, oh, teachers have to be like this. Even my small hometown in Uttar Pradesh, I had some great teachers. And I thought, oh my God, teachers have to be like this. So I'm still afraid of my teachers. My teacher who taught me in JNU has become my colleague now. He's also teaching but I can't talk to him. I'm always in awe of his being. And I always touch his feet, and he also gets embarrassed. He says, no, please don't stop doing this, it doesn't look nice. I said, I don't know any other way. So I didn't want to be a teacher, but I became a teacher. And after 7 years of teaching, I resigned. I went to the Vice Chancellor with my resignation. I said, I cannot work here any longer. This was just an experiment, and I'm done. I'm going elsewhere to work elsewhere. The Vice Chancellor refused to accept my resignation. He said, no, you're doing very well. And I said, but I am not meant to be a teacher. I really don't. He said, no, you can think of other ways. If you're interested in the other job, keep doing that job, go to that job and to take leave from here, whatever. No. So I did that. For 2.5 years I was working elsewhere. And there was a course that I had developed, which is rural governance, citizen participation. So that course became very close to my heart. And I kept on teaching that course even while I was on leave from the university as a volunteer. I was not accepting any payment from the university. I told them, they were saying that you take money from us also because you are teaching here. I said, no, I am not going to take any money from you. This is my contribution to society. So and then eventually I came back. So I don't know, I still don't feel that I am someone who is befitting to be a teacher. I really don't. So I always doubt myself. And I always question whether I am really able to create that impact that a teacher must create in, not just in students, but in society. This is really important. So to create that impact in society, as teachers, we need to really worry about the concerns of society. Like you said, corruption is a concern, you have ethical deficit is a concern, governance deficit is a concern, because most of the things don't happen in our country because of governance deficit. And ethical deficit is a part of governance deficit, right? So how do we prepare our students to change the scenario, to transform, not just change, but transform. Transformation. We need transformational initiatives, not just initiatives for change. The entire world is clamoring for transformational approaches. But unfortunately, sadly, we are into transactional approaches. Transactional approach, you do good to me, I do good to you, and we are happy. Right? forget the people, forget the world, forget society, everything. This is transactional. So the more we clamor for transformational approaches, the more we get into transactional approaches. So we have to break these barriers. From transactional approaches to transformational approaches, this is what we want to be. And I tell you, see, I am standing here, but as soon as I talk of the most fundamental provision of law in India, my feet start trembling. You know why? Because it feels as if I am not talking of the most fundamental provision of law. I am talking about some kind of a fiction, because it doesn't exist. It can't be seen anywhere. It can't be realized by people. It is not real. It is fictional, right? And then I ask this question to myself: what is it that I am doing as a teacher? Am I a fictional person? Am I someone who is sitting somewhere in a comfortable office, giving lectures, writing articles, getting my promotions, getting my salary, and being happy about it? Am I really making any meaningful contribution to society? That is the role that I see in a teacher. Very important, because teachers shape societies. Extremely important, not just the students, but society, entire society. Everything that we do has some educational value. We need to realize this. How we approach you, how we interact with you, how we have our business in society, all of that has educational value. And I give you an example. You know, some of you may know Professor N.R. Menon. You may have heard of him. He is a legendary figure, one of the tallest persons in the field of legal education. And I have been fortunate to work with him for many years. You know, some of the values, talk of values and ethics, that he always had and displayed and depicted. One was humility. He was a very humble person. And the other is respect. He was so respectful. When I first met him, that was 2004, I was still kind of a student only, although I had some 7-8 years of legal practice by then. But I was still a student. And he always respected my being. And that was huge learning. That is what a teacher should be. I tell you about my teacher in Vanderbilt. So I did my LLM from Vanderbilt, US. And my teacher is now retired. He is a professor emeritus, Vanderbilt University, lives in New York. There was a conference of the Global Alliance for Justice Education. It is an alliance of people who work for justice through experiential learning. That's the alliance is all about. And I was in South Africa. Professor Frank Block, the name of this professor is Frank Block. He was also there. And a lot of people from India, everywhere, there were some 60-70 countries participating in this conference. So it's like this, there's this corridor after the conference and before the lunchtime. He's standing in the corridor and talking to me. He's 80 years, he's old. So I brought a chair for him. I said, you sit. and people there are watching. And he's talking to me. So he said, "Is there another chair?" I said no, because I could only find one chair. He said, "No, no, I'm not going to sit." Can you imagine? And I insisted, I said, "No, you please sit." He said, "No, no, no. If there is no other chair, I'm not going to sit. We will talk like this only." And his father was a Nobel laureate for physics. He never told me. He never, we sometimes, brag so much about ourselves that I am so and so and so, this, that, all that. This is not the quality of a teacher. He never told me. He's a very close friend of mine. Of course, he's my guru, but he's also at the same time he's a very close friend. I go to New York and I live in his house. He comes to Delhi and live in my house. It's like that kind of a relationship. And he never told me that his father was a physics Nobel laureate for physics. But once we were eating, we were having dinner together. He mentioned that my father used to go to India a lot. And then he said, Homi Bhabha was his very close friend. Then I said to myself, oh my God, his father was a friend of Homi Bhabha. Then I started looking for his father. Then I found, oh my God, he was the physics Nobel Prize winner for physics. So you see, humility, and this is what students learn. As teachers, we don't only teach in our classroom. Outside classroom, there is a lot of learning that happens. How we walk, how we talk, what we do in society. All of those are learning initiatives for students. And it's very important. Okay, so coming back to this case study. Now what happens in this case study, a local newspaper publishes a news, and it is the month of December. Publishes in the newspaper that the police arrested 8 laborers and kept them in police custody, confined them in the lockup. Illegally, completely illegal confinement. And they were tortured. Somehow this came in the local newspaper. Now what the students did, it's a case study of students. Teachers can consider motivating students to do that kind of work. So that's why I brought this case study. So what the students did, they collected a group of students. There was one student from the law faculty, law student, LLB 3-year program student, and someone from journalism, someone from medical, someone from education, someone from political science. So they made a group of 8 students to investigate this case. Experiential learning. So investigate करते हैं. What happened? This is fact finding and investigation. Great sense. They had an interdisciplinary team, not just one stream of education, different streams. Team is formed, and they go to the field where it had happened. They meet the victims, they meet their families, they meet the larger community, and they just talked to them, documented everything, and then they went to the police station. The police station did not tell them anything. They did not give them any information. They were just asked to leave. They tried again and documented everything, but they could not succeed in talking to the police. They documented. Great sense, again, research, you have to take information from diverse sources, exactly what they did. Prepared that report, shared that report with the National Human Rights Commission for action. Shared that report with the local police chief of the district SP. And shared that report with the media, because the media had published. So their report was out in the media, their report was taken cognizance of by the National Human Rights Commission, by the district police chief, and there was action initiated. A part of action was a training program that the district police chief started for all the police stations of that district. So there were some 36 police stations in that district, large district. And they were trained and sensitized on issues of human rights, etc. So a lot of awareness, mapping the stakeholders, because students could map, these are the stakeholders. So media is a stakeholder, community, equal education, teachers, schools, right, everywhere. And they were generating awareness, which could lead to empowerment, because this is what exactly the ultimate objective of all of us should be, to empower our society. Because everyone cannot receive education. And the teacher's role is to educate everyone. Teachers will not just educate their students, but the entire society. Because
there is a question, sir.
yes, please.
Those students belong to any organization?
No, they didn't belong to any organization. It's just a loose group constituted only for this purpose. Now this was December, I said. So from December, all of these things happened. They took a couple of months, and then came June. Now see, the follow. Look at the strategy of following up. It was not just that one of you will do this and then forget everything and go on to something else. No, there was a follow up, and they could all do because they had a passion for it, which is so much needed. So as teachers, we also have to generate passion. It's really important that we make our students passionate and objective driven, goal driven. Should be some larger objectives in their mind. You know? Can't be just something. I always say that our students should be prepared to largely deploy themselves in society, and the gainful or whatever employment for payment is a lesser part of that larger deployment. How they deploy themselves, and then within that is their employment or money. So then came June 26th. June 26th is World No Torture Day. And it's a case of torture. So what these students did, they went back to the community, organized a community meeting in a school. Local local school, early morning because it's summertime, hot day. So they started early, organized a meeting with the community. And you know what they did? They talked about that incident, they talked about torture, and they talked about all kinds of things. And then they said, why 26th June is World No Torture Day? Because of the Convention Against Torture. There's a treaty which is made, it's an international treaty, which is made to prevent torture, inhuman, degrading treatment and punishment against anyone. Right? So that is the treaty. And they said India has not ratified this treaty. So let this community pass a resolution today for the government of India to ratify this treaty. Can you imagine? Those poor people, largely illiterate community, they are being told about international law. They are being told about this treaty. And they are being told about the non-ratification of the treaty and the need for the government to ratify this treaty. And they are being asked to come up with a resolution. Can this be imagined? They passed a resolution. The resolution was sent to the government of India for action. It's a great classic case study, Indian case study. Unbelievable. The second part is absolutely unbelievable. And many international lawyers say that, oh, they never imagined that international law can happen this way also. So all of us that we do, what we do, everything that we do in terms of educating our students in society, if we find ways to engage our students in experiential learning through these actions which are real, which result in huge learning for students, which may otherwise be not possible. Otherwise, whereas they would learn all of this, whereas they would learn those research tools, how to interview people, how to talk to people, how to approach communities, how to take all stakeholders, how to map stakeholders, how to identify them, how to work with them, collaboration. So I do hope that this case study would be useful for you people. I would stop with the thought that experiential learning is the way. The way forward for teachers is experiential learning, engaging with real issues, real people, their concerns, their problems, and working on them, inspiring our students, because when they see results, they get very motivated. Oh, because of us, this happened. What we read in books is possible. Otherwise, they would just know it's very difficult to relate with what is written in the books. Because what is written in the books, exactly opposite of that is happening in society. Because of the disconnect. So we have to find a way to connect it. Thank you very much. If you have questions, please.
Sir, even though education includes ethics, values and all, but many times we have seen like the educated people used to take the dowry, and they are very much fond of dowries in many part of India. Why exactly? Because education, because if uneducated people are doing this fine, but education gives ethics and values, but why exactly it's not, why exactly it's so?
Greed.
This is how I would look at it. I would say that it is a failure of education. Education has failed. and we don't want to remain a failure. And therefore, we want to explore ways to make education really meaningful for society. Otherwise, one side is that you receive education, become a topper, good grades and all of that, and find a good job. But then what is the use of all of this? If society is left behind, what is the use? So education necessarily has to be pursued as a matter of trusteeship on behalf of millions of people, on behalf of society, entire society. So when we pursue education, we have all of these millions of people sitting on our shoulders, and they have to be carried forward. If we are not able to do it, we should find a way to do it, and at least make efforts towards that direction. I'm not 100% sure that in our lifetime we'll achieve the result, but at least there is a direction. At least there will be efforts. Efforts made in all honesty and sincerity. Any other questions?
Yes, education tells me that taking more sugar is bad on health. But still, I took 2 rasgullas yesterday. So something like that. In a sense, the greed never ends. So as long as greed is there, so in education we are not.
But this greed is not harming anyone else, accepting you, but then there is also a kind of corrective measures that you can take. You could have walked 2-3 kilometers extra. So that's very different actually. It's very different.
Nowadays, we used to see in the social media, people used to compare, the nowadays with alimony. And I think it's very, I found it very unjustified. Yes.
See, when students fail, it's a reflection on us as teachers. Somewhere we also need to realize that there is a failure, indication of failure on our part. So once in my course, 9 students failed. So I told them that it is my failure actually. I really feel bad that this has happened. So yeah, I think education, not just one teacher, but education per se as a stream has to take that responsibility, and education must look at its failures. Where is it that we have failed? You know, I tell you, Singapore is one of the best place for education. Their education system is one of the top systems in the world. And a few years back, I was really absolutely taken aback. A few years back, I found out that they were revisiting their education system to look for its failures. And what we do when we succeed, we always go with our Jindal and all kinds of things, and we sing a song and we make merry that this is what we have achieved. And I was taken aback. Here is the system which is looking for its failures, whereas the entire world is acknowledging them as one of the best. And they are one of the best because they work on their failures. So I think it's high time that we look at our failures as a stream of education. And it will be great to actually work with all of you together. I'm looking forward to another opportunity where we can have some sessions where we can develop some ways which can be local, how to engage with people and different stakeholders in building those initiatives of experiential learning. Okay, all right. Thank you very much.